Today's video is going to be a quick and easy tutorial on Photoshop, how I personally edit my pictures and how you can do the same. Hi everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Orphea and in today's video I'm gonna be running you through how I basic edit my pictures. Now the pictures I'm gonna be showing you today will be edited only in Photoshop, and those are the pictures that I use for my own social media. So I'm gonna be showing you a photo of this look, the look I'm wearing in this exact video, and how I edit it for Instagram to go up on my feed. Now I will be making another video in the future on Lightroom and how I use that program to edit my actual photography pictures for other projects, but that will be an entirely different video. So welcome to part 2 of this video, where I'm gonna be a tiny bubble somewhere in the screen so you can still see me. If I'm looking that way, so the way that my screen is actually placed, that means that I'm working on my screen, but I'm gonna try to talk to you also. So if you can see my pretty kitty background with my goals for this year on it, and I'm gonna open Photoshop. This is the first thing that you're gonna wanna do. If you don't have Photoshop, I have Photoshop CC 2014. Now, why do I use an old version of Photoshop? Because this is the version that I have bought several years ago. This is the version that I learned to work with most recently, and that I actually use for lots of projects. So this is a legal version that I personally use. You can use the Photoshop versions that you can download from Photoshop. You have a really good basic plan that is only, I think, about 10 to 15 euros a month for both Photoshop and Lightroom, which I could personally highly recommend. Now, when you open Photoshop, mine looks like this. So what do we have here? We have the basic screen with, on the left, all of the tools that you can use, on the right, my layers and all of the other things that you can use. But what we're gonna do first is import our file. You do this by going to File, and then you're gonna do Open, or you could create a new one, but since we're gonna be working from a picture, I'm gonna do Open, and then it will go to the file that I last went to. Now these are all the pictures that I take when I work on a project. Now you can see two different names. You can see a JPEG and a NEF. Now the JPEG is what I'm going to be working with today, but because I work as a photographer as well, I use RAW files, and the NEF is actually a RAW file. But for the purpose of this video, I'm going to be working with a JPEG, and you simply select the file that you want to open in Photoshop. Now what I most of the time do is I still use the RAW files, but to make it easier for this video, I'm just going to be focusing on the JPEG ones. This is the picture that we're gonna start out with. It's not terribly bad taken, thank goodness. I always take my pictures on manual mode. If there's anyone who's interested on seeing a video on that, that is possible as well. First thing that I like to do is crop my picture, and it's this tool, the crop tool. You can also press C for this. I personally don't know why, but I've always liked using the sidebar for this. And then if you adjust the ratio to 1:1, it will make a perfect square for you. Now for most of my pictures I don't do this, but if I know I'm going to be using them on Instagram, I do. And then you can simply drag your picture, you can adjust it. So I like to have myself really in the frame, and I try not to have my arms cut off or anything. I just like to have myself central, because these are the pictures that I put up on my Instagram, in which I will tag the companies that the makeup is from, that the jewelry is from, etc. Once you're happy, you can either press the V here, or you just can press enter, is what I most of the time like to do. This is my picture that I'm going to be working on from right now. And what I like to do most of the time is make a copy of my background. So you simply drag it here to this little tab icon, and you can see that it makes a background copy. Why do I do this? If I mess up, I can go delete this layer, and I will still have my original background, which is locked currently, that I can edit on or make another copy on and just start over. I don't like working from a file that is my original file. So right now I'm just gonna do some small touch-ups on my face, not because I have massive pimples or anything, but just because I like to. So what I then do is Ctrl+, so which is zoom. Now I like to use the Control and plus because I'm used to using Control plus and Control minus, but you could also use this one. So this is the plus, and then you just click on the area that you want to see, and with minus you can go out. So this is the little icon for it. I just use the Control plus and Control minus. Now I am very lucky that I'm having a good skin day and that I don't need a lot of retouching, but I always like to use the spot healing brush to correct any mistakes. Now I just click on the little flaws that I have on my skin. This brush is already set to the size that I need it to be. Also a little bit of fallout from my makeup here. And I just go through my image, and the way I do this is by holding the space bar. So by holding space, it will turn into this little hand, and you can drag along around the file. So if there's any flyaway hairs that I don't like, I will just go and fiddle with them. I usually don't actually do this. So I just go around the picture and see if there's any spots that I don't like. I have, with the camera that I'm currently using, a little bit of what do we call them, broken pixels. So I am looking into getting another camera pretty soon. So this is basically what I do. So I look around for any little flaws that I feel need correcting. And if the size of the brush is too big, you can go here to the top left corner and you can increase or decrease the size. You can see it's bigger now. You can also make it smaller and just correct the little flaws that you see. You can also reduce the hardness or make it more hard. So if you make it harder, then it will really make a harsh circle where you correct something. If you leave it as hardness 80%, it will make it a little bit softer. And then the spacing is how much spacing is in between the things that you use. Now, I don't really fiddle around with this. I leave it the way it is most of the time. So now that I've corrected the main little flaws in my picture, I zoom out again so I see the entire thing. And then we're gonna do something that until recently I did completely differently. We're gonna go to adjust, which is here. And these are all adjustment layers that you will add. Now, the advantage of this, you can also do this directly on top of the layer that you're working on, is that this will create separate layers. So we're gonna go to brightness contrast, and by just sliding this thing, you can see that it makes the picture a lot brighter, way too bright, or a lot darker, really dark. So I just like to look, for example, this picture was taken a little bit too bright for me, so I'm just gonna put this on -6. You can also really just type here, so if you want -4 instead of -6, you can adjust it manually. You can also use the auto function that I personally don't really like, so I will just slide around with these. And if you want to reset these, you just press 0 here and it will reset them. Now I will decrease the brightness a little bit, and then I will increase the contrast just a little bit. And with this eye icon, you can see what you've done. So if I do this, you can see it's made very tiny changes, but it does help. So by clicking on this eye, you can see that I've made very slight changes. Then I want to go to curves. I'm not going to explain every single one of these tabs because that would just be way too much. I'm just going to show you what I personally do. I go to curve. Now, what does this do? This creates the curve of the lightness in your picture. Now, what I like to do is I always put it like this, and then you will start dragging one of them. So this one is for the dark tones. So you will either make the darks darker or brighter. And I just like to look what looks good. So I will just drag it down a teeny tiny bit. And then same from the lights. I think the lights look really good already, so I'm not gonna touch them too much. I just increase them the tiniest bit. And again, by clicking on this eye icon, you can see what you've done. And then we're gonna go to the one that I like to use most, which is called Selective Color. Now this isolates colors in your picture, and this is very important if you have a very bright color in your picture that you want to make stand out. For example, I have purple and blue makeup on in this picture, and if I want to make it pop even more, then I will just go to the selected color. Now what I always like to do first, I like to correct my blacks, and I do this manually. Why? Because I feel if I don't, that I go overboard too easily. And just like this, by adding 1 cyan plus 1 magenta plus 1 yellow and plus 1 black, I made the blacks in my picture a lot richer. Now you can go overboard with this, you can make them really too black, or if you don't want any blacks, you can make them extremely white. So I just like to do +1 because I feel like I don't like to over edit these pictures. I want them to look natural. For neutrals, I'm gonna do exactly the same on the cyan, magenta and yellow, and I'm just typing in the colors. Then I will just look what looks best. So if I want darker grays or if I want lighter grays. Now for this picture, I think I want it a little bit lighter. So I'm just gonna do -2. So by again clicking on this, I can see the effect that it has on my picture. And same for whites, I will also give them more richness. And because I don't want dark whites, because when you do this, you can see the highlight on my cheekbone, it's completely disappearing. The highlights in my picture are completely disappearing. So what I feel helps if you're struggling with the setting, if you're not sure what it does, is to slide it completely one way and to get it completely the other way as well. So right now, I'm just gonna make this a little bit less black, just a tiny bit. And if you, again, click on this, you can see what it has done. Now usually I only touch these colors if I really need them. For the purpose of this video, I'm quickly gonna demonstrate what it does if you add richness to these colors. So if you look like this, you can see that on my eyelids, the color is actually changing. I don't like doing this. I prefer having really true colors in my pictures because when I show my makeup pictures, I want it to be the correct color. Now, do I add a little bit of black for this look? Yes. Why? Because it doesn't really make a lot of change, and because I've increased the blackness of the black already, it would look a little bit different if I wouldn't increase the darkness of the other colors that I'm using. So I'm gonna do exactly the same for the blues. I'm gonna add a little bit of richness to them and then also do a +2 on the black. Now you can see if I slide this that it makes just a little bit of difference on the eyelid. +2 is actually not a lot. If you see the before and if you see the after, you can see a sort of richness that this has added to the picture. Now, if right now you go back to your layers, so where everything is in Photoshop, you can see that we can undo all of this. So what we have done in order right now is we have corrected my skin. There's not much happening if we put this on, but that's good because I just corrected a few minor things. If you know what has been corrected, you can really see it. Then we have increased the brightness and contrast of the picture, also small differences. Then we have increased the curves. So we slightly adjusted them, and finally we have adjusted the color levels in the picture. So those are the differences that that makes. Now what I also like to do, and this is something that is a little bit more time consuming, so I'm not sure if I'm gonna show you the entire process, is I like to make a copy of the background layer that I've corrected on. I go to Image and then Adjustments, and I make it black and white. And then I select OK. And why I do this is because I like the background of my pictures to actually be gray so that the person stands out more. And there's not really an easy way to do this, I find personally, but you want to create a layer mask. Now what this does, you can paint over this. So if you take the paintbrush, everything that you paint over with black, that will appear black in this little thing, will be coming through. So it's the layer underneath that you will be seeing, and everything that is white will be the thing, the color, or the way that this layer is. I'm gonna undo this. If you want to undo something, it's Ctrl-Z. So what I want to do right now is take the white brush. I'm gonna put it on a larger size, and what I like to do if I select the size is just click on the image and see what it does. So the white actually makes everything white. Go to black to exclude things. Now, as you can see, my opacity is on 52%. Reason being, I like to go over certain parts, so like my hair, for example, to have my actual color shine through, and my face, of course. But this creates kind of a gradient, because my hair should be black, but because of the color corrections and the way pictures are taken, my hair doesn't always appear black. So by adding the gray tones to it, it makes it appear darker. So this is more or less what 1/5 52% opacity will do. And now if I go over it a second time, you will see that the actual color shines through completely. And you can click on this multiple times. And the way that you know that this is entirely coming through, you can either click on this and just see what changes color, or you can see here where everything is completely black. So I just like to go over this, just paint over my face with this technique. I'm gonna go as fast as I can for you, or I'm gonna have to pause the video for a little moment and then just adjust everything manually. But this is roughly how I do it. So I just go over the entire thing with this brush. So you can already see that the background is really this grayscale colors, and I am really nicely saturated. And then if you have taken out the part that you want to be colored, and I'm just gonna go over this once more because I see here in the graph that not everything is pure black, and I like it to completely shine through the way the colors are. Then I switch to white and I decrease the brush size, and what I will then do is just zoom in onto my image and drag it along. So zoom in, Ctrl+, dragging it around is the spacebar. So then I go correcting here around the edges where my tattoos are, where my arm is, so that I just decrease the saturation here so that it frames me almost perfectly. I don't mind if it's a little bit off. I don't mind when my face is a tiny bit saturated or desaturated, or when tiny parts shine through. I don't mind that. It doesn't need to be 100% perfect, because honestly, who on Instagram is going to be able to zoom in that close on your pictures? That would appear a little bit insane to me, but hey, who knows? So we're almost there. I still have 3 minutes left on the counter of my camera, so we're doing good. So I just go around this, dragging the picture as I go. So this is what it then looks like. So if we go entirely in order of doing things, so this is the basic edits that I do to every single image that I upload on my Instagram. I first correct my skin. So I remove all imperfections, then I do brightness contrast, I add a curve, I correct some of the colors, and then I will gray out the background. Now to save your image, you go to File, you do Save As, and it will automatically create a Photoshop file. Now why is this good? It's good if you want to use the exact same layers on other pictures, which I will also quickly show you. So I'm gonna save this as a PSD file, so a Photoshop file. Now you can only open these with Photoshop. So if I want to use this picture online, I will need to save it as a JPEG. So I do Save As, then I select the right option, which is JPEG. I'm gonna call this the same name it was, and I'm just gonna add edits. It's personally what I do. And then this little thing appears. Now it will give you JPEG options within the size that you can save the picture. Now if you leave it on maximum, it will be 5.2, which is a very large file. So I always look to stay underneath 2.5. So for this picture, I might need to go to 10. So I go to quality 10. I always try to stay underneath 2.5 because most websites have a restriction on 2.5. I press OK, and then it will save it. So now if, for example, I open another picture, I'm not sure which one I'm gonna open. Let's see, this one, for example. Let's say I want to do the exact same corrections on that one. Then you select the 3 layers that you have created. So these are the 3 corrections that we did. And you can simply drag them from one file to another, and you will see automatically it applies them. So you don't need to do them over and over again. So if you have pictures that are taken in the exact same location with the same settings, and if you want to edit multiple pictures in the same style faster, then this could be a good solution for you. Of course, you have to crop them, make the manual things happen still, but this speeds up my personal process of working with Photoshop a lot. So this video was a basic edit edit in Photoshop, or at least the way I personally do them. Now, do keep in mind, I studied Photoshop in school, so it's normal this doesn't come as natural to you as it does to me. I've been using Photoshop for almost 10 years at this point, and it's one of my favorite programs to edit pictures with, together with Lightroom. Next month, I will have a Lightroom video up on my channel, so be sure that you are subscribed and that you have notifications on if you want to be aware of when that goes up on my channel. Before we end this video, I want to quickly thank all of my patrons for supporting me. And I especially want to thank my high tier patrons, Jerry and Anders. Thank you so much for supporting my channel. It means a lot. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next week with my new video. Bye!